I let my mom stay with me after her surgery. I cooked, cleaned, paid her medical bills. Then I came home one day to find her sitting with my landlord. She'd taken over my lease behind my back. "You never needed this place as much as I do," she said. I slept in my car while she hosted bridge night. But then I got an email from the property management company with one line that changed everything. I'm 32 years old. I live in Aurora, Colorado, and I've had the same two-bedroom apartment for almost 6 years. It's not luxury, but it's mine. I kept it clean, paid rent on time, stayed quiet. I liked things simple. Everything was fine until my mom had surgery last winter. She called me the night before she was supposed to go into the hospital. Didn't ask. Didn't check if I had space or if I was okay with it. Just said, "Clear the guest room. I'll be at your place when I'm discharged." That's my mom. She's 61. We don't have a great relationship. She raised me by herself, but she was cold. Controlling. Always talked to me like I owed her something. Still, I said okay. Because I'm her son. Because I felt guilty. Because I thought it's just for a few weeks. She's recovering. I can do this. So I took time off work. I cleaned the place. I bought groceries I knew she liked. I got the guest room ready and even got her one of those adjustable bed wedges. When I picked her up from the hospital, she barely said thank you. Just got in the car and said, "Turn the heat up. My knees are freezing." It went downhill from there. The first few days, I thought maybe she was just grumpy from the pain, but that was just her being herself. She made me wait on her constantly. Bring me soup. Not that kind, the other one. Get me more pillows. This one's flat. Turn on the TV. I don't know how this remote works. She didn't even try. She expected me to drop everything for her. I'd be in a Zoom meeting for work and she'd shout from the other room, "The heating pad turned off again," or "Can you come fluff my blanket?" She even told me to stop making excuses when I said I was on a call with my boss. She never thanked me. Never once. She complained about everything in the apartment. Said it was too small. Said it smelled like bachelor. Told me my furniture looked cheap. Said the walls were depressing and that I should get candles and paint the place beige. She even told me I should get rid of my game console and turn my room into a proper office so she could rest in the guest room longer. Then she said something that really got under my skin. "I don't know how you live here. I could fix this place up in a weekend." I laughed. I thought she was just being dramatic. I didn't know she meant it. Then came the money. Turns out Medicare didn't cover everything. There were fees for her medications, home support equipment, and some follow-up appointments. She handed me the bill without blinking. "You make more than me," she said. "You can handle this." I told her I'd already taken unpaid time off work. She didn't care. Said it was the least I could do after she gave birth to me. I charged it to my credit card $1 for $100 I didn't have. I kept telling myself it would be over soon. Her doctor said 6 weeks recovery. I told myself once she could walk without help, she'd go back home. But she didn't. Week 6 came and went. I asked her when she planned to leave. She said, "I haven't figured that out yet. I'm still healing. I don't feel safe being alone." I told her I was going back to work full-time and couldn't keep looking after her. She shrugged. "You do your thing. I'll manage." It felt off. Like she'd already made up her mind about something but wasn't telling me. It was a Friday in February. I had to go into the office for the first time in over a month. When I got back home, her car was already in the parking lot. I figured she'd ordered groceries or something, but when I tried to open the front door, it was locked. Deadbolt. From the inside. I knocked, confused. She opened it and looked at me like I was the intruder. Sitting on the couch next to her was some guy in a polo shirt. He looked familiar, and then I saw the name tag. Sayer, property manager. She smiled, calm as can be. "This is Mr. Sayer. We were just talking about the lease." I blinked. "What?" She didn't hesitate. "I signed it. He's finalizing the paperwork. I'll be staying here. It just makes more sense." I laughed. I thought it was a bad joke. I turned to Mr. Sayer and said, "She's kidding. This is my place." He looked awkward. "Well, she said you were moving out voluntarily, and the lease was up. It was on month to month, right?" My mouth went dry. I felt sick. "I'm the one who pays the rent," I said. "This is my home." My mom stood up and folded her arms. "You're young. You'll find something else. I need this place more than you." I felt the floor drop out from under me. I stood in the parking lot that night with a plastic bin holding my laptop, some clothes, and my charger. She wouldn't even let me back in to get the rest. She locked me out. I slept in my car that night. It was 28 degrees outside. I kept looking at my apartment window. The lights were on. The TV was glowing. I could hear her laugh. 2 nights later, I saw people showing up with pies and wine. She was hosting game night. In my home. Using my plates. Sitting on my couch. Laughing with her friends. I couldn't believe what was happening. She called me once to tell me to stop lurking outside the building. Said it was disturbing the neighbors. After days of calling the management company and getting nowhere, I finally got an email from their legal department. It was short. Tenant records show no legally binding lease in the name of Mom's name. She is not listed as an authorized occupant or co-tenant. Please advise. My hands were shaking. She didn't have a lease. She wasn't even legally allowed to be there. That was the moment something shifted in me. Something cold and sharp. I tried being a good son. I'd helped her. I'd paid for her bills. I'd let her stay. And she threw me out like trash. After I got that email, I knew I had a way in. But I didn't go straight to her. I waited. I let her feel comfortable. Let her think she won. She even texted me one night. Hope you found a place by now. I redecorated. The couch looks better where the TV used to be. I didn't answer. I screenshot it and saved it. The next day, I forwarded the email from the legal team to every contact I had at the property company. Leasing, billing, maintenance, the generic support inbox. I attached copies of all my rent payments from the last 12 months. I included the original lease in my name and pictures of my ID with the apartment address. 3 days later, a woman named Darla from corporate called me. Her voice was sharp, professional. She's not on any official lease, Mr. Lucas, she said. There's no signed agreement in her name. That unit is still under your lease profile. And our system shows her attempt to transfer. It was never approved by our compliance team. I asked her if that meant my mom was squatting. She paused. Then said, technically yes. I sent Darla everything I had and she told me to go ahead and call the police. She'd talk to their legal side and back me up if needed. So I did. I explained the whole situation. Showed them the lease, the emails, my ID, rent records. 2 officers came with me to the apartment. My mom answered the door in a bathrobe holding a glass of wine like she was the damn queen of Colorado. When she saw me, her face dropped. Then she saw the cops and did this fake shocked expression like she was the victim. Officers, this is my son, she said. There's no problem. He's just confused. One of them cut her off. Ma'am, do you have a lease agreement with the management company? She looked at me, looked back at them. He gave me permission to stay. They asked again. She said, well, I submitted the papers, so I assumed. Do you have a signed lease? They repeated. She started stammering. They gave her 30 minutes to pack a bag and leave. She tried to argue. Said her knees were still weak. Said I was cruel. Said no real son would do this. I stayed silent. Watched her limp around, throwing clothes into a suitcase I paid for. She left in the back of an Uber, looking back at me like I had stabbed her in the back. You'd think that would be the end, right? No. She started calling my aunts, my cousins, even old friends I hadn't spoken to in years. Told them I kicked her out onto the street while she was still healing. Told them I'd stolen her home. My cousin from Omaha texted me, dude, what the hell is going on? Aunt Val is saying you threw her out after knee surgery? I sent him the lease, the texts, the screenshots. He didn't reply for 2 days. Then finally said, holy crap, I had no idea. She made it sound so different. She lied to everyone. Tried to smear me to the whole family. Said I was mentally unstable and addicted to video games. Said I used her for her money, which is insane because I paid her bills. That's when I decided I wasn't done. I wasn't just going to get my apartment back. I wanted her to pay for what she did. I printed every receipt, every bill, the $1,400 in medical payments, the replacement costs for the things she threw away, microwave, rug, my Bluetooth speaker, and a bin of old photo albums she dumped out to make space. She didn't even save them. I found the photos in the bottom of the dumpster behind the building, soaked with old milk. I filed in small claims court for $1,900. She didn't show up to the first hearing. The judge rescheduled. She showed up the second time wearing the same coat she stole from my closet. Tried to tell the judge she had verbal permission and that I was just mad about the past. The judge looked bored. Asked her one question. Do you have any written proof that you were allowed to stay or take over the lease? She didn't. I won the case. She was ordered to pay me the full amount. But even that wasn't enough. A few weeks after that court date, I called the Colorado Medicaid Fraud Control Unit. Told them I had reason to believe my mom was listing a false address to qualify for medical housing and assisted benefits. They looked into it. Found out she'd put down my apartment as her primary residence on several government forms to qualify for certain medical subsidies and housing vouchers, which meant she'd been lying on state forms. It triggered a review of her entire benefit record. I didn't even know that could happen. But it did. And it was just the beginning. About 2 weeks after I reported her, I got a letter in the mail from the Colorado Department of Healthcare Policy and Financing. It wasn't addressed to me. It was addressed to her, but it got sent to my apartment because, of course, she had used my address for everything. I didn't open it, but I knew what it was. That same day, a neighbor knocked on my door, Rita, the sweet old woman from across the hall. She asked, "Where's your mom?" She promised me a ride to my bridge club. I told her the truth, she's not staying here anymore. She was never supposed to be living here in the first place. Rita looked confused. But she said the lease was in her name. She told me you were crashing in her spare room while you got your life together. That one hit me in the gut. She'd been telling people I was the one squatting, that I was the loser, that she'd been taking care of me. Even after everything, even after getting kicked out, she was still spreading lies. A week later, I started getting strange calls. Unknown numbers. Always around the same time of day. One night, someone left a voicemail. It was a man's voice, low and aggressive. You messed with the wrong woman. She gave you everything, and this is how you repay her? Watch yourself. I saved it and reported it to the police. Turns out she told one of her on and off boyfriends that I'd abandoned her in the snow and stole her retirement money. He believed her. I filed a restraining order. It stuck, but that wasn't even the worst of it. The next time I logged into my bank account, there were 3 failed login attempts. I used 2-step verification, so nothing got through, but it freaked me out. Then I checked my credit report. There was a hard inquiry from a furniture store in Littleton, one I'd never shopped at. I called them and asked who applied. They said it was someone using my name, but when I pressed, they admitted the ID didn't match. A woman had tried to use my information to apply for store credit. Guess who? I called her. It went straight to voicemail. So I left her a message. I know what you're doing. The credit, the calls, the stories you're telling people. You need to stop. I'm not playing anymore. She texted me back 3 hours later. You stole from me first. This is just payback. Maybe next time you won't be so selfish. Selfish. After feeding her, dressing her, paying her medical bills, letting her live in my home rent-free for months, she still said I was selfish. I didn't reply. I made a second report to the Medicaid Fraud Unit. This time, I added the credit application and gave them the voicemail from the boyfriend. They said they were opening a formal investigation. That's when I knew she was in real trouble. One of my uncles, my mom's older brother, called me out of the blue. We'd never been close. Last time we talked was maybe 10 years ago. He said, I just got off the phone with your mom. She's talking like you kicked her out into the street. I've been sending her money. I told him everything. I sent him the lease, the court order, the screenshots. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, she's been lying to me. Again. Turns out this wasn't the first time she'd done something like this. Years ago, she manipulated a different family member, took over their house for recovery after a surgery, then refused to leave for almost a year. Eventually, they moved out just to get away from her. I hadn't known. He told me she's burned every bridge. You're the last one who tried to help her. Darla, the woman from the property company, called me again. She sounded nervous. There's been an issue, she said. Someone filed a change of address form with USPS. It rerouted your mail to an address in Arvada. I froze. I hadn't submitted anything. She confirmed it was done online using security questions tied to public information, stuff my mom would have known, like my old high school or childhood pet. She tried to reroute my mail. Again. I called the postal inspector. Filed a formal complaint. She was now under federal review for mail fraud. I didn't want revenge at first. I just wanted her out of my home. But the longer this went on, the more lies she told, the more damage she tried to do, the more it felt like I had no choice. She wasn't just toxic. She was dangerous. And for the first time in my life, I realized something hard and ugly. I didn't have a mother. I had a parasite who wore a mother's face when it suited her. About a month after I reported the mail fraud, the hammer finally dropped. It was a Saturday morning. I was eating breakfast when I heard a loud knock on my door. Not the usual kind. It was forceful, like someone pounding with purpose. When I opened the door, two people in dark jackets stood there. Not police, federal. One showed a badge, U.S. Postal Inspector. They were polite but direct. "We're following up on a report of identity theft and mail tampering. Can we ask you a few questions?" I let them in. They sat at my kitchen table and pulled out a tablet. Asked me to walk them through what had happened with my mom, starting from the fake lease stuff all the way to the change of address. I told them everything. Showed them documents, screenshots, voicemails. Even let them take photos of the sealed letter addressed to her that got rerouted. They didn't tell me much, but one of them said something that stuck with me. "This isn't her first time doing this, is it?" I said, "I'm starting to think it's all she knows how to do." They nodded. 3 weeks later, I got a certified letter from the state. It confirmed that my mother's Medicaid and housing assistance were both terminated pending results of the fraud investigation. She'd violated terms of both programs by listing a false residence, collecting benefits she wasn't entitled to, and attempting to impersonate me for financial gain. They had also flagged her for prosecution. At first, I thought, okay, that's enough. She'll finally stop. But no. She started calling again. Blocked numbers, burner phones. I never picked up, but the voicemails were pathetic and bitter. "You really think they're gonna come after a 60-year-old woman with bad knees? This is your fault. If I go to jail, that's on you. You should have just let me stay. You owe me. I gave you life. I saved every one of them. Sent them to the postal inspectors and state investigators." A month later, she was formally charged with identity theft, fraud, and misuse of federal benefits. She tried to make a deal, of course. Claimed it was all a misunderstanding. Said her son gave her permission for everything. But I had documents. Emails, screenshots, video from my doorbell cam. I even had the neighbor across the hall, Rita, who gave a written statement that my mom bragged about stealing the apartment out from under me. They had her cold. I didn't want to go to court. I really didn't. But when they called me as a witness, I showed up. She was there, sitting at the defendant table, looking tired and angry. She wouldn't look at me. Her public defender tried to spin it as a family dispute that got out of hand. But the state had the paperwork, the audio, the fake credit attempt, and the USPS tampering. It wasn't a family fight. It was a pattern of fraud and manipulation. The judge saw right through it. She was convicted on 3 counts. Fraudulent use of government aid, attempted identity theft, tampering with federal mail. She was sentenced to 18 months in county jail with 5 years probation after that. And she had to pay restitution to the state and to me, totaling over $7,000. After the sentencing, I walked outside and saw her being led to a transport van. She looked at me for the first time in months. Her face didn't show guilt, just rage. "You happy now?" she spat. "You destroyed your own mother." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't get emotional. I just looked her in the eye and said, "No, you destroyed yourself. I just stopped covering for you." She looked away. The officers put her in the van. And that was the last time I saw her in person. I didn't tell anyone for a while. Not even the cousins who believed me. I needed time to process what I'd done. What she'd done. What I allowed for so long. Because here's the truth that hit me like a punch in the gut. I let her get this far. I ignored the warning signs. I made excuses for her behavior. I kept saying she's my mom as if that excused everything. As if being related meant I had to be her doormat forever. That was my mistake. That was on me. But I've learned since then. I cut ties with anyone who tried to guilt-trip me about it. I go to therapy now. Not because I'm broken, but because I want to stay strong. The apartment? Still mine. I repainted the living room. Bought a new couch. Got a dog. A goofy little mutt named Red who follows me everywhere. Some nights I still think about what happened. I wonder if she's sitting in her jail bunk telling stories to some poor cellmate about her evil son. But I don't lose sleep anymore. because she finally learned you can only push someone so far before they push back harder. And when they do, you don't just lose control. You lose everything.